Alright, hi guys. I thought I might make a quick video on how to fill out the AES response to intervention form that Ms. Hewitt and Mr. Shields have created. And I did a little tweaking to it also. But just because you can't see everything at first, I thought I would kind of share some things with you and hopefully might get you prepared before you start filling things out. So, on the first page that you will see, of course, you need to put your name, or if you're team teaching, both your names. To put today's date, easy way to put the date, you might just click on this arrow. You can barely see it, but you can just click on the day's date that you fill out the information. And then put your grade level. Now you'll notice as you go through, you'll see a red asterisk. That is information. It won't go let you go to the next page unless you fill out that cell right there. So as you see, I didn't fill it out, so this is a required question. I cannot go to the next page unless I fill that out. The next part right underneath the grade is just some basic information. The student who you're reporting on, last name and then the first name, their ID number, their date of birth. Again, you can just kind of pick the arrow and then you can kind of move, or you can actually just type it in. That might be the easiest with the date of birth. Their home language, if they wear glasses or not, you just click yes or no. And if they use color overlays. And again, if you filled out all of the cells that have a red asterisk, then you can press continue. And if you watch, I press continue, it's not going to let me go on because I have not filled out that information. But page 1 is pretty easy. All right, you go to page 2, and page 2 we start with looking at the education history. You basically just want to click off all the grade levels the student has completed so far. Just kind of gives us the information about did they miss pre-K, or did they did not have Head Start, or some kids even miss kindergarten. So just some basic information for us. Big information here: were they previously retained? If you do, click yes. Please, down below it, please provide a grade level and year that they were retained in. Now if you click no, you don't have to put anything right here. And if you notice on this cell, there is not a red asterisk. So even if I click yes and I missed it, I'm still going on, but that will be something if we see when we pull up the information. If you put yes, we really like to know the grade level. And absences to date, if they're not here, they're not learning, so that could be a problem. You can just, for this current school year, check the grade book. There might be space if you want to add in there if they had a lot of absences the previous year. You don't have to. You might indicate that when we meet at the RTI. Just a suggestion. But main thing, absences to date so far. All right, when you press continue, you'll end up going to page 3, and that's where we start looking back at assessments. You're going to probably need to pull out their CUME folder and pull up their Nagliera scores, the Stanford 10, Woodcock-Munoz. And new one for me, I'm thinking the phonics skills assessment, and I'm probably wrong, but I'm thinking that's the PAT test. Of course, now if you can't find that information, if it's a new student, you can't find it, then you're just going to put N/A. It's not available at that time. I think most of our students, you'll find a Nagliera score. Your Stanford 10 score, look at the it'll say reading PRS and math PRS, look at the total. Not everybody's going to have a Woodcock-Munoz. That's only for our ELL students. So a lot of students you might have to put an NA there. And you need to check with Mr. Shields and Ms. Hewitt, but I want to say the phonics skills assessment is the PAT test. Usually I know Ms. Winkler gives that, but I could be totally wrong. I've been wrong before. All right, staying on the same page, right underneath the phonics test, there comes the iStation. I know that Ms. Mayhew's been working really hard, and we are actually testing the students on iStation in the reading. So hopefully we'll be able to pull up some information there. And if you have a student, just ask me, because I'm able to log into iStations and maybe run you a report on the student if they have taken the test so far. Then we jump down into our DRA and guided reading levels. Probably, of course, since the beginning. Look at the middle of the year, the beginning of the year. You can basically just put the level that they're at. You won't have a middle of the year or the end of year. We might change that. Again, you'll notice the red asterisks, so you'll have to put a DRA at the beginning of the year. You don't have to put anything there. I did not put a red asterisk yet, but I'll end up changing that as the year goes by. Just for some information. And I also really like to, just been doing some reading this summer. I want to look at the comprehension, as you know, plays a big part. So I know there's a comprehension piece when you do the DRA. So make sure you kind of put the scores in for there for the beginning. Haven't asked for the middle, but the end of the year. End of the year, once we get to the end of the year, you won't have to fill it out right now. Do you have to put anything? No, because again, you don't have the red asterisks. So just to basically DRA at the beginning of the year. Now, if you're kindergarten, you don't give the DRA until January, so you're just going to put NA. You don't have that yet. But if you're second, third, and fourth, you should have a beginning of DRA. You won't have a middle. You won't have an end. Same thing for the comprehension. First, second, third, and fourth, you'll have a beginning, but you will not have an end. And of course, some of you probably already started your guided reading groups. You can indicate what level they're at in their guided reading. And of course, again, if you're not, I know like kindergarten, some of you are beginning, not everyone. You put NA, it's not available at this time. Timmy scores, we're probably hopefully soon getting that rolling. So I know probably a lot of you do not have the score, especially through kindergarten through second. So you'll probably put NA. But once we get them, if you do have them, let's go ahead and make sure we put it in. Again, if you got them, you need to put it in for the beginning of the year. There's not a concern because we're not at the middle of the year, and we're definitely not at the end of the year. All right, next page is mainly for probably our fourth grade. If you can find their star scores from when they were in third grade and put their scale scores in, that would be helpful. If you had a fourth grade that was retained, you can put their star scores in. For the most of us, we don't have star scores, so again, you'll just put NA, and then you'll just click continue. Okay, the last page is a page that I think will get a lot of the information from you. We start out, it's what I call basically the other screening info. If they have had some type of other screening that you can find, just go ahead and again you can see you can click off. If you know the results of the screening, maybe the student was maybe evaluation was done in special ed on the student and they didn't qualify. You can find some information. Maybe you can find out why they did not qualify. Here, if you can't find it, maybe just the only thing you might be able to find is they did not qualify. So then, that might be something we'll have to just kind of look at, and we'll just have to tweak later on how you fill out the form. The more information we have, the better off we can serve the student. Same thing goes down for a reading screening. I'm sure Ms. Hewitt would have that result, whether how they did or if they perform adequately or not. Below the reading screening comes the dyslexic assessment and special education referral. So you have, if you can find some information about that, if they qualified or did not qualify, you can put that information in there. If you can't, again, NA. But please make sure you ask around. Here is where I think you can put in some really good information down at the bottom part, the last part of the form, at the report card information. You list the grades that they're making, but you also might want on this area indicate some information of areas maybe they're struggling. This might be more of a good place to add notes. If they're failing reading, why are they failing reading? If they're failing math because they're very weak at number sense or they do poor on their assessments, good place for you to indicate that information there. Again, the more information have, the better off we can probably get something going for the student to help them out. But again, you have first 6 weeks, second 6 weeks. Now, when you fill out the forms now, you're only going to put in the first 6 weeks. You have nothing for second 6 weeks. Later on, if you got to bring the student again and you already have the first 6 weeks in, then you'll fill out the information for the second 6 weeks. I'm going to try to tweak it to where maybe you can download a copy or save a copy of what you fill out on the form, so that way you can keep it, so when you need to come back and put it back in, maybe you're not repeating yourself over and over again with the first 6 weeks when we're about to end the second 6 weeks, and that's where you need to put the information in. So that's something that we'll have to talk about. Ms. Hewitt, Mr. Shields, Ms. Gillespie, Ms. Eckert, myself had to talk about later on. But going to try and make it easy. But the main thing, you can put some good information in here. That would help us. All right, and then last, the unit test. Another thing you might put in is, of course, this would probably just be mainly from 2nd through 4th, just some scores, how they're doing, maybe some things that you're seeing. Again, just some information for us that would help us out to make a good decision. And then below the unit test come the tier interventions. Maybe the student has already in an intervention. Maybe you find out some information that the interventions that they received last year. Again, a good place for you to indicate notes here, when they started, how they're doing, things like that. That can kind of help us, especially if we need to take them to the next level, which would be taking them to IRC for special ed testing if we have to go that route. So again, this last page, the more information you can put in, the easier it will help us when we're sitting down together and we're trying to make a good decision for the student. And then, of course, when you're done, you will basically, you can click on send me a copy of my responses, and then you have a copy. And then that's something that I would suggest that you print out and you keep on file for yourself, and maybe even bring that with you to RTI. And then just click submit. And I believe it has, if you submit and you find out, oop, I made a mistake, there should be a link in there that will say if you need to go back and edit. So you can go back to the same one that you did. You don't have to start all over and edit again. So we're just starting this off, hopefully trying to save some paper. But the biggest thing is to get some good information so we can help our students be successful, and just try to make sure we're doing the right things for them. So sorry if this was a little strange watching this, but trying just to give you some good helpful hints before you start this process if you have a student you want to bring up to RTI. Again, don't hesitate to ask any questions, especially to Ms. Hewitt, Mr. Shields, myself, or Ms. Gillespie, or Ms. Eckert. Appreciate it.